morning. We are going to be in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 8, starting in verse 5 today. If you are watching live on Facebook, say hi. Good to see you. Matthew 8, verse 5. Now when Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, pleading with him, saying, Lord, my servant is lying at home paralyzed, dreadfully tormented. And Jesus said to him, I will come and heal him. The centurion answered and said, Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof, but only speak a word, and my servant will be healed. For I also am a man under authority, having soldiers under me, and I say to this one, Go, and he goes, and to another, Come, and he comes, and to my servant, Do this, and he does it. Verse 10, when Jesus heard it, he marveled, and said to those who followed, Surely I say to you, I have not found such great faith, not even in Israel. And I say to you that many will come from east and west and sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the sons of the kingdom will be cast out into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then Jesus said to the centurion, Go your way, and as you have believed, so it has been done for you. And his servant was healed at this same hour. Now, I've got a note in my Bible to flip on over to Mark chapter 1. So I'm going to do it. Oh, nope, wrong note. I had a color coding issue. That's actually from the leper story. So we have this centurion come. Now in Luke chapter 7, we have the parallel passage. And in there, it does tell us, that the centurion is talking to Jesus vicariously through his servants, and that doesn't make a big difference. Basically, the centurion kept sending servants out to meet Jesus and say this, and then meet with Jesus and say that. And so here it makes it sound like they're talking face to face. That wasn't the case, but again, I think Matthew's just kind of, not mentioning that portion. Little things, but it is the same story, just in case there's any confusion. So Luke 7. Now, this servant of him, it's a word, pais, that's for, it could be a boy or even a son. And so this servant's a young servant, and he's using a term, he's not saying my slave, which a lot of times in the New Testament, we have the word servant, but it's the word doulos in the Greek, and that means slave, just straight up slave. Oftentimes Jesus talks about, you are my servants, and is like, no, you're my slave. And so it's just worth noting that this is a very affectionate term. So this centurion obviously really cared about this young boy servant of his. And so he sends for Jesus. And Jesus in verse 10 marvels. And you have to think about that. Like, what does it take to make God marvel at something? Now, this is perhaps a bit of an anthropomorphism where we're using words like, obviously it's hard to make Jesus really marvel. God already knows everything, so how do you make God marvel? But at the same time, this is where we've run into the whole issue where Jesus is also a man, and so there's a whole thing there. But he marvels at this. He marvels at the faith of this centurion. And what he gets into is the fact that he just believed Jesus at his word. And we'll come back to that maybe in 1 second. Let's look actually at the end of the text, because he talks about how many are going to come from east and west. That people are going to be saved in the east, and people are going to get saved in the west. But the sons of the kingdom will be cast out into outer darkness. What's being said here? Well, some of this is foreshadowing of the fact that the Gentiles, right? That Jesus, at this point in his ministry, he focused on the Jews. We don't really see anything till Acts 8, Acts 10. We see some Gentiles, and here this centurion was a Gentile. Jesus was not opposed to serving a Gentile, but his focus was the Jews. The gospel was to the Jew first and then to the Gentile. And that was because God had been using and working through the Jewish people up until this point. So does it not make sense that he would make sure that they got the message? Before I focus on everyone, I just want to make sure you guys have gotten the message, that all of you have heard the gospel. And so that was Jesus's focus. And yet here's a Gentile from the outside who just believed Jesus. So sadly, many of the people who were of the covenant, who had the promises, who should have known this stuff, they're going to reject Jesus today. All of the Jews reject Jesus. If you're Jewish by religion today, this is speaking of you. If you have friends who are Jewish by religion, I say by religion because, right, unlike every other religion, right, it's also an ethnicity, and there's many Messianic Jews. A Messianic Jew is a Jewish person who believes that Jesus is their Messiah, and they're saved, and they're going to heaven. And then there are Jews who reject Jesus as being the Messiah. And so they're just Jewish. And they're the ones who will be cast into outer darkness. And so it says here that the sons of the kingdom, the ones who are supposed to inherit all the kingdom of God that God has promised, well, as long as they're rejecting Jesus, they're the ones who will be getting kicked out. Now, back to the marveling. Why has this man's faith made Jesus marvel? And it was simply because he believed Jesus at his word. And he took him at his word. When Jesus says, he'll be well, the guy believed him. The guy didn't need Jesus to come. He didn't need Jesus to show up, lay hands, mix some mud, or all the other funny things that Jesus did to heal people. No, he just says, just give me your word, and that's enough. In John chapter 20, Thomas gets to see Jesus' hands and the hole in his side. My Lord and my God, he says. And Jesus says, hey, blessed are you because you believe, but blessed are those who are going to believe and have not seen. See, Thomas got to see and believe. But he said there's a special blessing on these people who are one day not going to be able to see like Thomas could see and still believe. This is where we get to have the opportunity to fall in, folks, is taking Jesus merely at his word. That's what we have. We have his word. And many people want to see signs or miracles or manifestations. But we've got his word. And that's what the centurion wanted, right? I mean, and like I think Enrique's saying, hey, the centurion didn't even have his word to start, right? But we do. How much more should we just be able to take Jesus' words and apply them and believe them? And so this is where trusting God comes in. It's, God, I just trust your word. That's all I need. I don't need you to make a miracle happen. If your word says it, well, that settles it. And that's enough for me. It's definitely not an easy task or faith to have, but it's one that God will breed inside of you. He'll continue to work out in you as you seek him, and he gives you opportunities. There's a word starting with T. We're not going to mention that scary word. These kinds of opportunities where you get to learn to trust him. But he'll give you opportunities, times, seasons that you'll pass through where you'll get the opportunity to trust him at his word and believe his word in spite of circumstances, in spite of having a sick boy at home, just believing his will is going to be done and that whatever he says, that'll be accomplished. So, cool story with the centurion and his servant. Oh, tomorrow we get to watch Jesus heal Peter's mother-in-law. I was going to make a mother-in-law joke, but I'll save that for another day. All right, you guys, take care. Have a great day, and I will see you guys around. Adios.